What is good, YouTube? That boy Elvis back again with another video. Today, we got, in my opinion, my personal opinion, the greatest anime of
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
top three. I won't say all time. I know y'all get very emotional about the top threes or all times or whatever. But definitely it's top three. I'm not gonna lie. In my list, I got Attack on Titan, Death Note, and The Promised Neverland, and then some other things like kinda getting there, like Blue Light.
What did he say?
Kinda getting there. Block is really good. Haikyuu first season was good, but I watched a couple animes, and it is actually one of my favorites. Stay tuned. I hope this commentary is good because sometimes these editors be doing too much. But without further ado, y'all, let's get right into it.
The show begins with three kids, Emma, Ray and Norman, behind a giant gate, looking beyond and wondering what lies within it. This is already a great establishing shot. The intimidatingly large scale of everything inside the gate tells us that whatever does lie beyond it is probably something not to be messed with. Skipping ahead, we realize that Emma, Ray and Norman are all in an orphanage, accompanied by a bunch of other kids and one guardian, the mum. Now, as you probably noticed, this isn't a normal orphanage. All the kids have numbers on their necks like cattle. There's only one adult in the entire facility, and as we see later, they all have to do these oddly intimidating exams despite being so young. During a game of tag, we are shown our three main characters' strengths and weaknesses. Emma is physically stronger and more athletic than the others. Norman is the polar opposite to Emma, lacking physical strength but is a complete genius. And Ray often avoids confrontation, sitting aside while the others play tag and instead reading whilst tracking the time. In another game of tag, the three stumble upon a fence deep in the forest, explaining how their mum always says to never venture beyond it as it could be potentially dangerous, with others soon following and setting their goals for once they leave the orphanage. And then we see Connie. Now, Connie may seem like a random side character at first, but her role in the story is extremely important. This is further proved by the following scene, in which it is revealed that Connie's going to be leaving the orphanage because she got adopted. Once she leaves, Emma notices that she left her toy behind, a stuffed bunny. And so, accompanying each other, both Emma and Norman venture into the now open gate and find a truck. With no one around, the two look into the truck and... with the only sign of life being thorny flowers coming out of her chest, the two freak out and accidentally call.
When I tell y'all the first time I seen that, y'all, oof, boy, was I freaking shocked.
Or some noise of someone or something noticing. Peeking out from under the truck, they see three giant demons drooling over Connie's lifeless body, explaining how all humans produced on this farm are high quality meat intended for the rich. Putting two and two together, we figure out that this farm they talk of is actually the orphanage, and that their mum, now known as Isabella, is just a cattleman, raising the kids to just have them slaughtered and devoured by demons. Running away, Emma and Norman make it back to the orphanage and, after a brief crisis, decide to escape with everyone. But unfortunately for them, they left the bunny.
They left that bunny behind. Man, it's gonna start problems. How long is this? Okay.
Behind at the gate, and it's picked up by none other than Isabella. And that was just the first episode. How the viewer learns so much yet even more is left up in the air is done in such an amazing way. The next day, Emma and Norman come to an agreement.
Great storytelling, I'm not gonna lie.
Nothing happened. Otherwise, they'll be
Great
caught
storytelling
and probably
type of
killed. Norman then figures out that the quality
anime
of the meat varies from certain factors such as intelligence and age, but older and smarter being higher quality. Coming up with a brief plan, the two decide to get everyone out during the day. Then realizing that not only will there be demons coming after them, but also there's a giant war between them and the outside world. Returning to the group after hearing a bell, it is revealed that a child has gone missing, and so Isabella looks for and retrieves the child extremely quickly, leaving Norman questioning if there's trackers implanted on every orphan. We then see
Hey, Norman was in debate with me, but Norman was the smartest out of all of them. Norman was the smartest out of all of them. They were all smart, but Norman was the smartest.
Looking out of a window and, oh my god, it's literally me! Despite suspicions arising from both Isabella and Ray, Emma and Norman meet at night to find supplies in order to get over the wall. Before they get a chance to test them out, however, Ray shows himself and questions what exactly happened at the gate that night. Learning the truth, Ray is at first hesitant to help them with their plan due to the vast amount of roadblocks in their way, but eventually subsides and agrees to help them. But once again, their plans are halted when a new caregiver arrives at the orphanage. Sister Crone, along with an
this girl creepy. I don't know why they made my sister look like that, but like out of all people, like she couldn't be. Come on, with the hair all crazy and yeah, I don't really like. That's the one thing I don't really like about this. But they did a good job on delivering what type of message was sent in terms of like, oh, she's scary and she's like there for a role. It was
baby called
y'all
Carol.
gonna see. Just watch.
During a meeting, the three discuss this new and other roadblocks, along with how to figure out where the tracking devices are implanted on the human body. And with Carol still being a baby, Emma sets off to find her and see if she has any scars on her body, which would lead to a tracking device. But before that, Sister Crone and Isabella meet and discuss her newfound duties within the orphanage. And that Isabella also has an idea of who figured out what the kids are really raised for. Skipping forward to Emma, and she discovers a bump behind Connie's ear that may lead to the discovery of a tracker, whilst a new character begins to become curious, Gilda. That night, we see Isabella talking to a mysterious figure using a radio system about how 3 of the kids are ready to be shipped out, with a jump cut to a group of demons saying how they can't mess up his meal and how they should offer their praises to him. This is never brought up again, and you'll see later on why. The next day, the 3 kids decide that to get everyone out, they should play tag, just so the little ones don't freak out and so they can practice without suspicion. This, in return, makes Sister Crone suspicious, so she wants to—
What I tell y'all, smart. And look at this. Oh my gosh, they did my girl dirty. They did my girl dirty. No. Why they gotta do her like
play
that?
tag as well. And so during it, she's able to intimidate everyone with her speed and strength. And it seems as if she's already suspicious of Emma, as before catching her, she states that if she saw what happened that night, then she's on her side. Oh yes, I would definitely trust the average woman without makeup, jump scaring me like it's Five Nights at Freddy's. Later that day, Emma, Ray, and Norman begin to suspect that there's a traitor among the kids leaking info to Isabella, due to the fact that she seems to not really be doing that much to figure out who saw the truth. And this is where the psychological aspect of the show comes into play heavily. In the next scene, Emma glances at Isabella, Sister Crone, Gilda, and others just staring at her, making her freak out and become paranoid. Because in reality, the kids are pretty much powerless against these demons and adults. It's just like when you try to hide that you've broken something as a kid, but your parents definitely know, they're just waiting for you to say it. As Norman places something unknown in a bag, we cut to Sister Crone and Isabella having a little meeting. It is here that Isabella reveals that she knows what Sister Crone is up to, but this has no effect on her, because she just goes to her room and destroys her doll. As strange as this scene really is, it does show us that Isabella does have a lot of psychological power as a human, and that Sister Crone just don't give a fuck. The next day, the 3 decide to play tag and escape as teams, just because the little ones would just perish by themselves, and that they should tell Don and Gilda, the other eldest orphans, the truth about their situation. And after playing a round of tag just to practice everyone's escape, Norman reveals that the escape will be carried out in 10 days on November the 8th. Emma's reaction, being one of concern for not having enough time to practice, is pretty justified, but Ray almost seems a bit agitated, saying how they should have had at least a month until the next shipping date. When I first saw this, I immediately knew something wasn't right. Even with Norman's fine judgment on this escape date, Ray just seems annoyed unnecessarily. That night, the 3 talk to Gilda and Don, with Gilda already being suspicious, but Don being such a brainlet, he just thinks they're joking. With a little bit of convincing and lying from Norman, Don and Gilda agree to help with the plan, with Norman laying a trap just in case they're informants, that being if one of them goes searching for what Norman hid under his bed earlier, being a rope, then they're the informant. That night, Gilda slips out of their room and goes to speak with Sister Crone, while an unknown person slips a note under Isabella's door, saying that the rope is underneath Norman's bed. Turns out that Gilda was called to Sister Crone's room for a well-being checkup, but when she figures out that Gilda knows everything, she gets up in her face and does some looks maxing shit. Like, look at that jawline, dude. She's fucking Giga Chad. So now we know that Gilda isn't the traitor, but what about
Nah, he said look maxing. Nah, that's crazy.
Don? The next night, Norman and Ray check the spot for the rope, with it now being taken. As Ray confirms that it's Don being the traitor, Norman ignores him completely and instead points the finger right at Ray, saying that he's the traitor. This revelation was done extremely well, because although Ray—
What I tell y'all, and that's why what I tell y'all, Norman is the smartest out of the three. Norman's by far the smartest out of the three. He just has good emotional control, and he just thinks 3 steps ahead. Like,
Ray was definitely suspicious with a lot of things, but the scenes where Don and Gilda are both the same, speaking to Isabella or just staring at Emma. Ray explains how he's been Isabella's subordinate for a long time, saying how he's known what really goes on at the orphanage for a while now, and instead of cutting him off completely, Norman just asks for 3 things from him. 1, to continue to spend time with everyone like before and to guarantee their safety. 2, release all the info he has to them, and 3, come to their side instead of Isabella's. From Norman's request, it's revealed that Ray was the one who pushed Norman and Emma into seeing the truth, and thus putting together a plan. So Ray has been pulling the strings for a long time, pretty much, cooperating with Isabella so he doesn't get shipped out right away.
why Ray do that though? I forgot why he did that, but it wasn't even that good of a reason because he was gonna eventually get shipped out anyways. Like, I forgot why he ended up going on her side in the first place. I forgot, but shoot, let's see. I'm glad he's on the other team now though, because there's really no reason for them to do that, for him to betray them. Like,
And that if he gave her info, he would be rewarded with so-called drunk from her perspective, which in return led to Ray figuring out how to break the tracking devices. But even with Ray's monologue, he's still one to be trusted. He's acting pretty mental, and he even says that he's not an enemy, but also isn't an ally. And under only one condition, he'll become their ace and give them info about Isabella whilst licking lies to her as well. That condition is to trick Emma and only escape with the 3 of them, Don and Gilda, as the little ones would be a burden on their escape. With Norman reluctantly agreeing,
nah, he's tripping.
Isabella, and like he promised, didn't sell them out to Isabella. But with some questions answered, even more are realized. We know that Ray was the traitor, but who's really pulling the string? Ray seems like he's got the upper hand.
So now both sides know.
Does she really know about their plan? Before those questions can even begin to be answered, I wanted to share an example of a filler scene in the show, because although they don't add a lot to the overall plot, they do to each character and their personality. For example, in one of Norman's dreams, he imagines being right at the exit to the wall, but as he looks back around, everyone is dead, with the same flowers growing out of Connie growing out of everyone as well. As Norman notices Emma dead on the floor, he grips onto her, just hoping she has any life left in her. That is, until...
Eat cheese in the chat.
Although this scene adds little to nothing to the show, it's still a great reminder of just how terrifying their situation really is. The next day, the 3 meet up and Ray comes out and just straight up says to Emma that he's the traitor. Emma, obviously dumbfounded, questions why he would even be Isabella's subordinate. Ray then explains that he would have told them everything when they got back from
Emma's smart, but she not
left the bunny behind, and so he had to cover
the
things
best
up for them. Later that night, all 5
with
of the kids
people.
meet up, Ray sharing some info, that being how Isabella disappears into a secret room between a bedroom and her own room every night at 8. Further adding that she goes there to speak to headquarters and that the security measures on the room are unknown and it's probably a bad idea to go check. But of course, Don, being the absolute fucking genius that he is, decides to go anyway with Gilda following. Gilda is at least hesitant to do so, but goddamn, there is nothing but mush and TV static going on in Don's brain. Although they do eventually find the secret room, they find it to be locked as the door to Isabella's bedroom opens up. Turns out it's not Isabella, but it's actually Phil, a character that seems insignificant right now, but is actually pretty integral to the entire series. Over in a separate
Nah, Phil's the cutest. Phil's the cutest out of all the kids. He's a little.
room, the main 3 are again pondering
That's
their
my
escape
guy.
and things they need to consider. The escape plan has 3 steps. 1, get over the wall and escape. 2, get away from the orphanage safely. And 3, establish a way to survive outside and become self-reliant. Now for the time being, that last step seems like a no-brainer, but as we'll see in the 2nd season, it's just kind of executed very poorly. And back to Doodlehead Don, and he's just successfully stolen Isabella's key to the secret room. Successfully being a bit of an overstatement. Switching back to our main 3, and Emma has just revealed someone who has the possibility of being an ally. William Minerva, the previous owner of many of the orphanage's books that might just be conveying a message to the children through them, with that message being shown through Morse code. I really like this. In a lot of games and anime, a secret message is usually figured out through finding fucking pieces of paper, or a spooky voice recording of a man dropping a couple.
Nah, that's actually the impressive part. Because I honestly, this is the first time I ever heard about Morse code. I think that's what it's called. And these kids, 11, 12 years old, know Morse code. What? But these kids smart. Like, I think that was crucial to their escape. their attempt of escaping. But yeah, like these kids know Morse code at 12 years old. Like, what are we talking about right now? This can't be this is I don't even know.
Turds in the toilet. And although using Morse code as a substitute isn't that special, it was just nice to see a bit more thought put into it. With Norman completing the code, it reads run, doubt, danger, truth, monster, and farm, with the three concluding that it's likely an ally from the outside world, trying to help them, and just maybe they think there could be human civilization beyond the wall. Switching back to Don and Gilda, and the two have managed to get into Isabella's secret room, finding Connie's stuffed bunny, along with other mementos from already harvested kids. This is massive, as Norman before lied and said that Connie and the other children were still alive, with this new revelation contradicting that. Whilst that happens, Norman figures
Wait, he said what? Wait, he said what?
From already harvested kids. This is massive, as Norman before lied and said that Connie and the other children were still alive, with this new revelation contradicting that. Whilst that happens, Norman figures out the final page of Morse code, reading Promise, along with a book with absolutely no Morse code. As Don stumbles into another bookshelf, another secret room opens up, revealing multiple communication devices.
That dude's clumsy. I don't like him. That dude is too clumsy. He about to hit something and have Isabella come down in a second, like, bro.
And after some back and forth between the two, they hear Isabella enter the bedroom. Narrowly escaping her, the two go to meet up with the rest of the group, with a meeting commencing later that evening. With Don understandably confronting the group on their actual situation, the three reveal the truth to the pair, and after some conflict within the group, all is well and apologies are given. This entire sequence was really good. It really puts a lot of humanity into Don and Gilda, showing us that they aren't just random throwaway characters, but are instead important to everyone's own well-being and the overall story. The next day, the group begins preparations for an investigation on the outside world past the wall, with Ray planning to give Isabella false info to create a situation where she wouldn't look at their trackers, as we are also told that Ray's shipment might be a bit closer than we think. As the group walk deeper into the forest, we see Sister Crone mewing at the kids beside a tree, with her then revealing that
Yo, look at that image though. Y'all can't tell me that's not funny.
Sister Crone mewing
Look at that. That's crazy. This is a crazy mewing. Nah, these TikTok terms are outrageous.
Proposes an idea to join forces. As she reveals cattle numbers on her neck, Sister Crone explains that girls who meet certain requirements before being shipped will be given two options, either to become a mum or die. But even as a mum, you'll be installed with a chip.
I know that
if
hurt.
you take even one step outside the farm, you'll be electrocuted and killed. They eventually agree to join forces, with Sister Crone agreeing to let them escape. That night, after a meeting with the group discussing Sister Crone's possible influences, Emma and Norman go to meet with her, whilst Isabella finds and opens a package containing a suitcase and a letter. Ooh, who is it for? I don't know. Back to Emma and Norman, the two ask Sister Crone to show them the tool that receives the signal from the tracking devices. Once handed to them, Sister Crone explains how it only shows the current location of someone, but it can't specify who it is. With that, she also confirms that the tracking devices are in the back of the child's ear, but that she doesn't know how to break them, just that it sends out a signal to the tool and to headquarters when it is broken. With the only known way to contradict that being to cut off your own ear, Sister Crone suggests using the tools from the infirmary to do so. The pair then asks Sister Crone her age, that being 26, in which she reveals that Isabella is 31. But as they learn about the area's low security and as Sister Crone grows more intimidating, the pair decide to leave. And just before the night ends, Ray receives his last reward, a camera.
That's what he was getting. He was getting rewards.
So nothing shows up here at first.
Gotta make a move to a town that's
The next day, the group go over their plan to investigate the outside world, with Norman and Emma climbing the wall for inspections. With our three MCs moving to a new location, Norman reveals to Ray that Sister Crone knows that they can break the tracking devices now, asking if their escape day can be moved up. Pulling out the camera, Ray states that he's now obtained all the parts he needs to do so, with the next scene showing Sister Crone having a revelation to search just in case they do have all those parts. As she begins searching Ray's bed, she finds a piece of paper, the paper supposedly outlining a weakness of Isabella's. Returning to her room, Sister Crone is pretty delighted with this info, but before she can ponder on it anymore, Isabella knocks on her door. Opening it, Isabella hands Sister Crone a letter from headquarters, an involuntary separation letter. It reads, number 18684. Sister Crone, we hereby appoint you to be mum for Planet 4. Sister Crone has lost against Isabella, but even so, she's still not ready to give up. Exiting the orphanage and meeting with a figure called Grandma, Sister Crone pulls out the paper she found under Ray's bed. She explains to Grandma that in addition to what's on the note, the perfect scorers in the farm are trying to escape, but with no sufficient evidence to back up her statements, Grandma just brushes them off, saying how Isabella is a necessary pawn and that Sister Crone is being troublesome. With Grandma leaving, Sister Crone is left alone with her own thoughts, or at least she thinks she's alone. As she tries her hardest to escape, we see flashbacks of her training to become a mum in a farm, with multiple other women doing the same as her. And finally, we see what the flowers and the bodies are really used for, killing, with the flowers blooming whenever the victim is dead, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, these are bloodthirsty demons here, yet Connie's body wasn't torn up or anything, just lifeless. Switching back to the group, they begin their plan to inspect the outside world, but before they can do anything, Isabella says to Ray that Sister Crone has been eliminated. Ray, being surprised, runs to Sister Crone's room just to find nothing, and before he can say anything, Isabella says that their deal is over. Also, I find it really interesting that she always refers to him.
Isabella is she's that guy. She's that girl. She's that nigga. Like, yeah, Isabella is 2 steps ahead. This is literally a fight between Isabella's mind and Norman's mind, and Isabella knows what's going on. She knows everything that they got going on. Yeah, this is interesting. This is interesting.
Always refers to him as a useful dog, like it's a Sydney train at 2 a.m.
Give you a big hug.
It really shows how she just sees the children as farm animals. With the situation changing, Isabella locks Ray in the room and proceeds to go find Emma and Norman, tracking them down using the tracking tool. Seeing Isabella exit the orphanage, Don finds Ray and breaks the door down, setting him free. Don, Gilda, and Ray go to stop Isabella, but not before she finds Norman and Emma.
Why does she lock him up?
Dropping her motherly act entirely, she reintroduces herself, even stating that at that moment, it's just the caretaker and the children meant to be food. But even so, she still says she loves them, wanting them to stop resisting so that they don't suffer. So is she bending the truth to try and trick them, or are those words genuinely from a loving place? Arguing is now futile, as Emma goes back and forth with Isabella, only to be stopped by Norman. But they haven't exactly given up yet.
Oh, snap. Isabella's
This is
smart.
more devastating than it seems, as now she can't run, so their escape date must be pushed back a month or so, right around Ray's shipment. As the other 3 arrive at the conflict, Isabella tells them some devastating news. The higher-ups have given a notice for Norman's shipment date the very next day. As Gilda, Ray, and Don express their frustrations outside, Norman sits beside Emma, trying his best to remain calm, with him then breaking down whilst getting water for Emma because she can't move. As Norman returns to Emma's room, he finds Ray there as well, only for them to state that he is going to escape the next day, or more precisely, have him disable his tracker and hide out in the forest until everyone else can escape. Even with this and then some, Norman still isn't convinced that it'll work. Instead, he states that they can have his life, but he'll destroy what Isabella has plotted to make sure the escape for everyone else succeeds. But even so, Emma proposes an idea, to have Ray and Norman break a bone or get sick to push back their shipments. As the 3 are all high quality, it would need to be in perfect condition to be shipped. Opposing Emma's idea, but agreeing to Ray's eventually.
These kids smart.
Disable his tracking device whilst not notifying Isabella. As Norman asks how Ray found out the truth about the house, Ray explains that he knew from the beginning, further explaining how he's been able to retain his memories since he was just a fetus. He then points out that after the tracking devices were implanted into babies, they would be separated into groups of 5, with Ray passing through a dark tunnel eventually arriving at the orphanage, which could only mean that past the gate lies headquarters and the adjacent 5 farms. So with this gate's exit being impossible to escape from, their only option is to climb the gigantic wall, with their escape now being conducted once Emma's leg has healed. The next day, everyone's trying their best to behave as they always do, as Norman sprints to the wall with some rope and ties it to a tree. Using the rope as assistance, Norman makes it on top of the wall and sees nothing but trees for miles. Later that evening, as the group all wait nervously, we see Isabella check her tracker. As Norman returns, completely disregarding the plan that was set in place. That night, Ray and Emma.
Damn, Norman. Oh, he's getting shipped out. He was the smartest one too. They probably can't even do it without him.
Emma confront Norman on this decision, but before they can make any argument, Norman tells them some crucial info that we as the viewer didn't even know. There's a cliff beyond the wall, wide, long and deep, of certain death awaiting anyone who falls in. Along with that, Norman figured out that this farm and surrounding farms are on a hexagonal property surrounded by a cliff, and that the section west of their farm was probably headquarters, also containing a bridge over the cliff. Before more can even be said, the group are interrupted with Norman handing back Ray's device, with their conversation ending with a farewell group hug. As he packs up his stuff, Norman finds an old string phone he and Emma once used.
GG's in the chat. GG's, Norman.
When he was sick as a young child, so that they could still talk to each other. I like this scene a lot, especially with it being the only thing he's packed. It shows a lot of sentimental value and shows us the impact Emma has had on his life. As everyone finishes saying their goodbyes to Norman, Emma has another idea in mind. Running at Norman and tackling him, she tries to disable his tracker and get him to run away, but without hesitation, Norman pushes her away. As an argument begins to unfold, it's quickly ended by Isabella, whispering to Emma that she'll kill her if she starts another commotion. But before he leaves, he says his final farewell to Emma and Ray, then leaves the house to meet his demise. As Isabella walks to the gate with Norman, he asks her one simple question: "Are you happy?" It startles her, replying yes because she was able to meet someone like Norman. I do believe this to be true, but the fact that it initially startled her leads me to believe that she may have a little bit of guilt somewhere in her heart. As they enter the gate, Isabella asks Norman to wait inside a room, but the only thing we have to go off is a shocked look on Norman's face, as if he's found out about something or seen someone. Back at the farm, both Emma and Ray are very depressed.
Y'all gonna see what that was. Actually, did we even figure out? I don't even know. To this day, I honestly not sure. But
even Ray suggests that they just give up and die. As Emma returns to her room, she breaks down in tears, but is quickly stopped when Isabella enters her room. She taunts her with statements like, "You can't do anything on your own." But even so, Isabella even says that she'll recommend her to become a mum of a farm, but Emma still declines the offer, her will to save all the kids just being too strong. As the days go by, we eventually arrive at Ray's last night before he's shipped away, which coincidentally is his birthday. What a fun celebration that will be. Alright.
oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, we're ready. Yeah. Just hurry up. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday! Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh my god, thank you guys so much. You coming out drinking? Barry, you coming out drinking? It's your birthday. We gotta get hammered, bro. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry,
bro,
guys. I
this
just can't.
filler episode. This filler is crazy.
Why, man? It's your birthday. Come on. So don't tell me
This
you're working.
cut
No,
is
not
outrageous.
working. Not working. So it turns out that I need to go get
Where's Norman
shit
at?
to be eaten by demons.
Bro. Where's
Yeah,
everyone right now?
man. But as Emma meets with Ray, it's revealed that Emma still hasn't given up, because Isabella had to have her eyes peeled on both Emma and Ray after Norman's shipment. Emma left everything to Don and Gilda to figure out. With her escape finally planned out, there are still just 2 problems left. Firstly, Isabella's watchful eyes, which in order to escape they'll need to separate her from the babies to shake her off. And secondly, the cliff past the wall. They can't go to the bridge to the west as security will be tight once notified about an escape. So to counter that, Ray will seal off Isabella's secret room, light the orphanage on fire so that they can evacuate everyone and escape whilst Isabella's busy putting the fire out. Even with this seemingly perfect plan, what if Isabella just decides, fuck the house, I'm going after the kids? Well, to counter that, Ray pours petrol on himself, meaning that since he's the top scorer and it's his shipment day, it would be a bad idea on Isabella's part to abandon him. As midnight rolls around, Ray lights a match and drops it, with Emma charging right towards him. Switching to Isabella, we see her doing her usual nightly duties as the mother of the farm, right until she hears Ray's name being screamed out. Running towards the room and opening the door, we see that the entire room has been engulfed in the flames, with only Emma to be seen. Realizing what Ray did to himself, Isabella runs back out the room and orders Gilda to get everyone
No way he just drenched himself in oil? Nah.
Run outside, with the exception that the babies need to be in her own room. Charging back in, Isabella tries using a fire extinguisher. I say tries, as after like 3 seconds it just lets out a pathetic trickle of pre-cum instead of like an entire load. Looking back, Emma is nowhere to be seen. Using her tracker to locate her, she finds nothing but a bucket. Looking inside, she sees Emma's own ear, as she now realizes what's happening. Switching to Emma, we see her meet up with the rest of the kids, including Ray. That Emma caught the match from earlier, with some of the other kids helping lay out a fake Ray to be engulfed instead of himself. As everyone begins to escape, we are told that some of the other kids were let in on the secrets of the house so that they would be more willing to escape, including Nat, Anna, Lannian, and Toma. Making it to the wall, it is said that Emma and Nat will climb up first, then pulling everyone else up afterwards. But as we switch back to Isabella, we see that she's basically lost her mind, still not willing to let them all get away, but not all of them are.
Nah, at this point, Isabella is about to go ham. And these kids executed that perfectly. But Isabella is not going for that. Like, definitely expect some pushback. And Emma and Ray definitely, I think they did. We gonna have to find out.
Actually escaping. As we see everyone getting pulled up onto the wall, we have a flashback to a conversation between Emma and Phil, with Emma telling him the truth, but with Phil, despite being so young, already having his suspicions. I like that about this show. It made me think that a lot of these characters could actually exist without it being a TV show. It's immersive. With all that new info, we realize that the really young kids, the quote-unquote liabilities, are being left in charge of Phil, with Emma vowing to return in the next 2 years to save them and the kids in the other plants. But before they can make any progress, Isabella alerts headquarters about the escape, with an alarm going off and maximum security being enforced. So instead, to Ray's surprise, they cross over the cliff instead of the bridge, with Don throwing a rope across and around a tree, forming a flying fox, or if you're a boring American,
Please save me, Donald.
Something they didn't tell you was they actually trained for like that throw, and like they actually trained for all of this. Everything that's happening right now, they trained for. So like Dawn, they was playing tag, and he was doing like throwing the thing at the tree and stuff. So yeah, nah, that was they planned it very, very well.
Donald Trump.
a zipline propaganda. With Don crossing first, Lannian and Toma then use their devices they made earlier to get their own ropes across the cliff, with Don tying those up and forming 2 more flying foxes. With Ray completely thwarted with their training, he has a vision of Norman standing next to him, with the two conversing about how they finally made it to a scenery they thought they would never see. With Isabella finding out that they haven't even made it to the bridge, she realizes what the kids are up to, as we see that only 5 more need to cross over. And with some of the younger ones scared of falling, this gave Isabella some time to catch up a bit. Now, with just Emma needing to cross, Isabella finally catches up to them. But with no way to stop her, Emma makes her...
This scene right here was outrageous. I hope he gets the whole grasp of the scene because it was crazy. But it's only like 27 minutes, so probably not.
With just Emma needing to cross, Isabella finally catches up to them. But with no way to stop her, Emma makes her way across the cliff, with the flying foxes then being severed, leaving Isabella alone with her own thoughts. As she stands upon the wall, she has visions of when she was once a child in a farm talking with a boy named Leslie as he plays an instrument. Don't know what it's called, it just kind of sounds cool. The scene eventually shows Isabella on her shipment day, finding out the truth about everything, which then progresses to her training to become a mum and becoming pregnant. Now, in a world where most men end up dead, I don't know how she became pregnant. Unless, maybe a demon could? The scene finally ends with Isabella...
Yo, nah, no cap. What? No, that is a great question. How did Isabella get pregnant? Yo, nah, this is crazy. From a demon? Nah. Nah, impossible. Impossible. I don't even know. And what happens to the kid? What happens to the kid?
Isabella being a mum at her own planet, with Ray as a young child.
Hey, Mom. Why'd you give birth to me?
Well, Ray, I did it to survive.
This sequence was really cool, but once it gave Isabella at least some level of humanity, showing us that she wasn't always so cruel. And watching it for the first time, I really had no idea Ray was Isabella's son. By rewatching it now, I now see
That Ray was Isabella's son? Now it makes sense. And she was gonna sacrifice her own son? Oh, nah. What would have happened to him? Would he have gotten eaten or... Nah, that is crazy. So he has known since he was like young. Dang. That kid's been smart since legit.
I now see all the hints and similarities between the two, showing that it wasn't some random thing they added in the last second, but something it has been telling us for a while now. As we switch back to Isabella, she realizes and accepts defeat, and instead wishes them luck and support with their escape, with her then returning to the rest of the kids that were left behind. And thus, as they sprint for their lives, they finally make it to the edge of their immediate forest surrounding the wall. Just as the sun comes up, as their escape plan finally becomes a reality. And that's the first season. And goddamn, that was great. And it's not just me who thinks
Man, that's the first season. Yeah, what I tell y'all, I did not lie. Y'all, I do not lie. I told y'all I don't lie. This is the best top 3 at least animes of all time. Like, yeah, that was only the first season too. There's another season. I won't give any spoilers. So if you want to watch that with me, shoot, go ahead and like that video. Like this video. We on the way to 1,000 subscribers, and I really like these reactions to these animes, especially the ones that I actually like The Promised Neverland. I would also like to react to Death Note. Would be fun. Jujutsu Kaisen. What's another one? Oof, I'm on the spot right now. You know what? All the other ones. Blue Lock, actually. I heard Solo Leveling was good, actually, from my friends. So if you want me to react to those animes, man, just go ahead, leave it down in the comments down below. And I'ma see y'all, and we on the way to 1,000 subscribers. Peace.